everybody. I want to welcome you back to the Dynamic Decisions podcast, where we explore the strategies that drive successful decision making in the world of business. Why? Because the best decisions come from great conversations. I'm your host, Tisha Cable, CEO of C Model Data, and today we have an awesome guest who is transforming the e-commerce landscape. His name is Josh. Josh is the CEO and co-founder of Arctic Leaf. He's got over a decade of experience in digital marketing and e-commerce strategy. He's built Arctic Leaf from a 3-person gaming development company into a 40-plus person full-service digital agency with offices across North America, including their original location just 3 blocks from Shopify's headquarters in Ottawa. So, Josh, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for being with us today. We'd love to learn more about you and more about your company.
First of all, thank you for having me. When I saw the invite to come on, be a part of this, I'm always happy to share knowledge, offer value, give insight. But that intro, I may have to record it and put that on my bio somewhere. Thank you for that intro, Tisha.
Thank you. You're very welcome. And actually, before we dive in, my understanding is that you're currently writing a book on resilience in leadership. So congratulations on that. Would you tell us a little bit about that book?
Yeah. So it's actually a lot of stories. So one of the things that I've always found when working with or reading different personal development or self-help books is that they're very high level and they don't actually get into the weeds on like, how did someone actually overachieve something? Like, what were the actual things, actionable items, step 1, step 2, step 3 to do that? And that's something that I felt really was missing in the marketplace. And what I did personally to overcome my own business challenges, personal challenges, burnout, fatigue, things like that. And it's really interesting. I kind of bring it back to the roots of even when I graduated high school, did a year in Israel and spent some time there, and really kind of even tying into some of the ancestry roots and things like that about cold plunging and saunas and how those have, been used for thousands of years of our forefathers and ancestors, and really kind of brought that to the forefront. And some of the key measurable things that I did, for example, I quit cannabis a couple years ago, unfortunately still use it again, but I did quit for about 15, 16 months. And I built an entire protocol on what I did to actually get off of it, because there really isn't anything out there. So like I built it. It's part of the whole book philosophy, what the feelings I went through, like going through those first 3 weeks of withdrawal, how I counteracted some of them, and really just it's a lot of interesting stories about the challenges I faced and actual things I did to overcome those challenges and what were the outcomes from those inputs, I guess you would say. So first draft is nearly done, should be ready for my birthday in July, and hopefully hit the shelves sometime before the end of the year. That'd be, that's the ultimate goal.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations again on the book. So you've achieved elite big commerce partner status, right? You've won industry awards. What do you believe is the most critical element for brands to succeed when they're trying to redefine their e-commerce strategies, especially because it's so competitive today?
Yeah, knowing what you don't know. I mean, I literally had a prospect call this morning and they're still living in the 1990s, like 2000s. And so just even helping brands and merchants get to the forefront, building strong foundations so you can actually elevate the brand overall. So I think a lot of people just forget about, they all want the shiny new thing. They want the shiny new toy. But a lot of the success that we had working with BigCommerce and getting to elite status, same thing with Shopify, getting to a plus status, was really addressing pain points for brands. Sometimes you're dealing with data migration, which isn't sexy, but that's the biggest thing that they need. Other times it's user journeys and buyer journeys. And, that's way more fun. Sometimes it's retention strategy. So we really kind of come in and sell from a pain perspective. And how do we solve that? Right. And the brands that are thought leaders and really putting thought behind what they want to do gives us that capacity to do some really fun and creative things.
So you believe and emphasize, UI, UX design custom development solutions when necessary. When you're making high stakes decisions about some of that platform development or launching a new campaign, do you have a framework that you use to make sure that what you're delivering into the market either truly drives conversions or customer loyalty?
Well, I don't think I'd be here 15 years later if I didn't drive value for our merchants. So I must be doing something right on that front. But yes, we have a repeatable process. It all starts in the sales side of things, right? Understanding their pain points. What are your overall objective? And I think one of the things that actually helped my own sales process was a very simple, basic question was what defines success to you as a customer? So everyone has some, and it's really interesting because when you start talking to the different executives and the different people involved in a project, everyone has a little bit of a different definition of what success is. So once I understand what a definition of success is, I put that into a repeatable framework. Yes, we all understand, homepage, category, product, PDP, etc. Those are all the frameworks of an e-commerce store. But then it's like understanding what's going on underneath the hood. What's the driving factor? Is it personalization? Is it a, D2C brand? Is it B2B? So because we've done over 1,000 e-commerce stores, we've seen so many different solutions, different pain points, different things over the course of the period that we've actually built an entire standard operating procedure of how a project is sold, how it gets handed off, how it gets communicated, how it's worked on. Two key factors at the company is on time and on budget. And there's no compromise on that. So let's say a client actually says, I want to add a feature. Great. What are you removing? Right? Because we need to make sure that we're going to get your product in market on time. The thing is with running custom, development is that there's always going to be something that comes up along the way. And I think that that's just being open, transparent, good communication. The other thing that I think has really been important is that no one in my company is off limits, right? So if you want to call with the CEO, you want to call with the CTO, you want to call with the QA person, we'll put you on the phone with whoever you want. And I think that's really like just going above and beyond from a customer service perspective. But yeah, everything has a standard operating procedure. We're very process oriented. We've built our own BI software. We aggregate data and we can make decisions quickly. So it's a process. It's taken years, but we've built a lot of infrastructure around our standard operating.
Now, when you talk about describing success, do you find that customers actually have a hard time with it? Or is it that they speak their own language and it just needs to be interpreted?
Well, that's 9 times out of 10 is make me more money, right? So it's pretty easy on that front. But no, everyone's got a little bit of a different answer. The technology guy will say, I want, good clean code, or I want, project, this to be simpler. Marketing team has something over here. Paid media creative has this over here. So I think it's asking the right question. They do. Some of them have a very direct answer. Some of them have, several points that they want to kind of achieve on. So it's just a matter of distilling it down. It varies by the merchant. Are you a startup? Are you sophisticated? Are you $100 million brand? That question is answered very differently from a $100 million company to a $5 million.
But then ultimately, though, how you ask the question, what the question is the same. It's how you ask the question might be different. When you ask the question might be different.
I ask the question every time at the end of the call. So I never actually break character on that. I get all my information. I ask all my pain point questions. And then at the end of the call, I say, before I hop off, what defines success for this project? And it really resonates. And sometimes going back to your first question, now that I think about it, some people actually have a hard time answering that question. They actually have to take them in. Oof, that's actually a really good question. I never really thought of that.
Yeah. And you got to take them down a path so that they understand. Actually, you have to simplify. I think what I actually believe is that they have an answer, but they can't articulate it.
Yes. Oh, yeah. They know what the answer is for sure. Like, that's not a question. No one's ever not been able to answer the question. They may cop out a few times and say, I just want to improve conversion, right? Or make more money. I want to see the ROI. So I'm like, okay, fine. Then I understand that your number one objective is with this investment of whatever X, you're expecting 5X return on investment over the next 3 to 5 years or whatever it is, or 18 to 24 months. Some actually come in and say, well, I have, board gave us a target. We need to achieve this much revenue in 18 months. I'm like, okay, well, let's kind of distill that down a little bit and let's figure out how we get there. And great, we can do a migration or support on certain things, but how much money are you putting into marketing? The world of if you build it, they will come does not exist anymore. Field of Dreams, great model, but I don't know that there's a baseball god out there just sending the New York Yankees to your e-commerce store to buy.
Not for the average company. So many of us are building technology companies and have to realize that we're in the buckets of people need what we have solutions, but it's not like there aren't options in the world on how to solve certain problems. Like there's the once in a however many companies, and then there's everyone else. And there's a place for everyone else, but it's just a matter of knowing where your place actually is. So you kind of in your prep, you mentioned that you've actually built proprietary tech and systems that make Arctic Leaf essentially a turnkey operation. So every aspect documented. Robust project management, CRMs, operational processes. When you're measuring the success of major e-commerce initiatives across your very diverse client base, what are the key performance indicators that you find to be the most telling to truly assess whether or not the brands are achieving their measurable?
Well, conversion rate's definitely one of them, especially being a certified UX provider. If we're doing a UX overhaul and we're modernizing best practices and buying journeys, and we're going to look at conversion rate as a key metric. With one of our larger brands, we did a large bundling engagement. So the objective there is to see a higher AOV, average order value. And then we take one step further and we go down the line and we look at our retention strategies and say, okay, what is our actual key LTV, right? Lifetime value of that customer, and how can we help engage that customer to drive more return on investment? So those are some key ones. Site speed, obviously, if you're doing a replatform, bounce rates, SEO metrics, making sure that everything is juiced up appropriately. Google's changed so much now, and just 301s, 302s, 404s. It's just, it's all basics, but it's actually not. The amount of times I've seen brands forget about the fact that they have a bunch of landing pages that they're still sending traffic to that lands on a 404 is just, again, these are basic things, but just kind of making sure that everything's buttoned up in a digital world. So LTV, lifetime value, AOV, and then obviously conversion rate are the three main components that we really look at. And then again, if the client has an objective, like I'm launching a subscription model, okay, what is that going to do? How many subscriptions are you targeting? How many are you going to get there? Are we going to change the positioning on the e-commerce store to drive more subscriptions or one-off sales? We always have three key metrics that are very important, but then it comes down to the project scope and the project requirements of what defines success for a customer. They just care about, I'm paying $1 million a year for my cost of, total cost of ownership, and I need to get that down to $500,000. And we see a bunch of those customers like that. They're on Magento, they're end of life, their contract's up, and now Magento 2.5x their contract value. And it's like, well, this is ridiculous. I might as well just migrate and move to something like a Shopify or BigCommerce, right? And so we've seen a few of those situations where it's just get me off Magento as fast as humanly possible for as least amount of money as possible. And then now once we've defined success and we've hit success, now we can start doing the fun stuff. There's nuances and there's definitely context. And it's the same thing with the digital transformation. It's every merchant has a different pain point. Everyone's trying to do something a little bit different, though.
So you mentioned having to make decisions that may not be liked by everybody, but are necessary for the company's betterment. Can you maybe share some of your insights about building resilience as a leader and how that relates to your decision-making framework, especially in the hard times, because that's when it really matters.
We had phenomenal growth over COVID. And then candidly, COVID, changed e-commerce and we saw a drop in 24, 25. And we had to make some adjustments that unfortunately were not easy decisions to do. But at the same time, what I had to go through, for example, resiliency is you're not alone. I've been in business for 20 years. I have phenomenal friends, founders who have been through major ups and downs. I have some founders that have literally built billion-dollar companies and have lost billions of dollars and then have regained those billions of dollars. It's rough. And, I'm on a much smaller scale, but when I had to make some adjustments, I call a buddy of mine and I really talked through it. CEOs and founders know the answers. We already know the answers. We know exactly what we need to do. We just push it off because we're a bunch of babies.
Right. It's going to hurt a little bit. Somebody's feelings. Yeah, people's feelings are going to get hurt. All kinds of stuff, right, gets in the middle of these decisions. Yeah.
And sometimes it's just hearing from somebody else that I went through the same thing, and it's not personal. It's purely business.
Yeah. Tell me this right now. Give me this advice right now.
Yeah, I'm telling you straight out. Tisha,
yeah.
It is not personal. It is strictly business.
Come on. All right.
And I'm going to break it down really, really simple, right? Cash flow is king. And you don't need to have crazy formulas and EBITDA and all these other things and business profilers and all these other stuff. I'm going to break it down really, 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 really basic.
Okay.
You have X number of dollars in revenue over the next, call it 6 months, right? And we're going to call that X. And your expenses are Y over the next 6 months. X needs to be higher than Y, so Z is a positive number. That's all it.
Yes, that is exactly
right. It sounds ridiculous.
It's not.
X minus Y equals Z, and Z must be a positive number month over month.
That's right. There it is. Or there's really no business. Like, I don't care if you had $20 million invested in your company. If X is not more than Y, you have problems.
Yeah.
At a particular point in time.
You know, I ran into the same mistake where top line revenue was growing, 40% year over year, and everything, we're flying. Everything's amazing. This is fantastic, right? But what's your profit? When business owners can break it down to that simple of a mathematical formula. Now, I mean, if you argue with ChatGPT, you can probably get it to say 1 + 1 = 4. But really, it's just X minus Y equals Z. Z must be higher in a positive in a number.
That's awesome advice. And when it's not, all things change.
And it is not personal, because if Z is a negative number month over month, you're not helping anyone. You're not helping yourself. You're not helping your business partners. You're not helping your customers, and you're not helping your staff. And that's where those tough decisions come in. And that's when you have to make those adjustments. And it's going to suck. And the key things that I put in there is like, you're going to make hard decisions. I box 2 to 3 times a week. I get in the ring and I go to war with somebody. And when I come out, I am smiling because I've let it all out. And so you need to find your outlets. Do something that is going to change your mindset. That's going to just basically accept that these are business decisions, nothing more. And I know it's super hard, and I know that I say it, but I personally have been able to get there at this point where like I personally have to make some very, very tough decisions because others can't. And when I was doing my adjustments, I was public enemy number one, right? I was the bad guy, but that's why you're a CEO. That's why you're a business owner. That's what you signed up for. But you're not helping anyone by having your company underwater.
This is great advice. I hope you guys are listening. For our audience, in addition to thinking about the decisions that you need to make about maybe your team, I want you to think about your own experiences with e-commerce strategies and digital transformation. What decisions have you made about platform selection or UX design that have significantly impacted your online business performance? Share your experiences with us on LinkedIn and other social media using Dynamic Decisions Podcast. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about you as a leader. Co-founder and CEO, you've got a background as a serial entrepreneur, and you were 2019, it says here, Ottawa Business Journal 40 under 40 recipient. You've led Arctic Leaf's transformation, building multiple companies, including another company called partnerportal.io. Tell me more about the strategies in doing all of that you've used to actually build a culture of creativity and continuous improvement as a leader.
You want to know the secret?
Yes.
Transparency. That's it.
I keep saying that's the future.
I've always been very transparent about our company, where we are, what we're doing. If anyone calls me up, we used to run office hours every other week at the company, like basically back in high school or university where the professor had office hours. And me and my business partner every other week would have an hour available for anyone in the company to just hop on a call with me and ask me any questions. And I think the other thing is culture is, we don't get involved in nonsense. Like we are just neutral to everything. We will work with any vendor so long as it's legal and it's not hardcore adult entertainment content. or anything that is highly activism or political. Right. And it's just stuff that I don't want to bring into the culture of the company. Your opinions, your views, how you sit, how you align, that's none of my business. And that's just not a place, in my opinion, that the business needs to be pulling information in or putting something out there that could be polarizing. We have this rule in our general channel. We have no politics talk. And if something comes up, we shut it down instantly. And that's just been our philosophy, And one thing we did also that really changed that form of culture too was in our hiring process, we asked one simple question. Do you have an issue working on sensitive subject matters? And then I basically go in to say, what does those sensitive subject matters look like? It could be firearms, it could be CBD, it could be THC, etc. And I ask them if they're comfortable working on those. And if the answer is no, then we're not necessarily a good fit. And if the answer is yes, great. We've now established that whatever we ask you to work on, you're comfortable working on without it creating a problem.
Yeah, as it should be at work. It's people should be able to come to work and get the job done.
Yeah, that's it. Come to work, get the job done. What you do on your weekends, what you do in your private time is your own business.
You're giving them an opportunity to opt out right away. So because people also have the option to work for whomever they choose.
Date, but I feel like it's dating in 2025 where you walk in and you kind of have like, all right, what are your 5 key questions? And 15 minutes in, if you're on to a second date or not.
You're like, what's your love language?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to get into my favorite thing here, which is to explore your decision-making style through this persona assessment. So I'm going to ask you 4 questions, and they each represent a different approach to decision-making. So after each one, you're going to tell me how much asking the question the way that I did resonates with how you actually approach your decision-making. You'll have a scale for each question of 0 to 100%, but across all 4, you only get 100%.
Okay.
Make sense? Okay.
I think so.
All right. We'll feel our way through it.
We'll just go with it. We'll see how this happens, right?
See how it happens. Okay. Here's the first one. It's called the feeler. It's a values-driven leader. This persona prioritizes alignment with core values and mission, often weighing the human impact and cultural fit of decisions alongside business metrics. When considering a new e-commerce strategy or client project, I ask myself, does this align with the Arctic Leaf's mission to elevate brands and enhance customer experiences through thoughtful design and development? Even if a more profitable project might generate short-term revenue, we need to feel confident that we're truly helping our clients create meaningful connections with their customers and building long-term digital success. How much of you is that?
That I'd say is 75%.
You only got left with 25%.
Oh, wow, you're right. Okay, so then I gotta rethink this now.
Yes.
I'd say that's a 40%er.
Okay.
I'm a feeler.
I got it. That leaves you with 60% left. Here we go. You got three more. Okay. The second one is called the planner. It's a strategic visionary. This persona focuses on long-term implications and future-proofing decisions, always thinking several moves ahead and considering multiple scenarios. When making strategic decisions about Arctic Leaf's service offerings or market positioning, ask myself, what are the long-term implications of this choice for the e-commerce industry over the next 5 to 10 years? I need to map out how emerging technologies, changing consumer behaviors, and platform evolution will impact our clients' needs, ensuring our capabilities and expertise position us for multiple possible futures in an increasingly competitive digital landscape.
I'm going to say 25%. I don't like that it's 25%. But it is, unfortunately, like I can't even forecast 24 months ahead of time. Like I don't like, so yes, I'm a planner, but at the same time, I'm realistic with my own forecasting capability.
So that 25%, that leaves you with 35% left.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's get to your next one. This one is called the counter. It's the challenger of assumptions. So this persona naturally questions conventional wisdom and looks for contrarian opportunities, often finding success by zigging when others zag. So when evaluating new e-commerce technologies or industry trends, I ask myself, what assumptions are we making about user experience, methods in conversion optimization that might be fundamentally wrong? What is everyone else in the digital agency space doing that we should question? I tend to dig into why certain design approaches or development methods work and whether there's a more innovative solution that the industry isn't seeing, especially given our unique focus on custom solutions and accessibility compliance.
I'm gonna go with 20% just because I have very little cash flow left. I spent everything on the first question. So no, that's a good question. If you actually look at my profiles anywhere, like actually I call myself a realist. And that's something that really opened my eyes up back in 2020, 21 when COVID hit. I didn't really follow what was happening in the world as much, and my eyes were definitely closed. So definitely more of a realist and challenging standard convention at this point. Right. But I also use 40% of my first questions.
There we go. Well, let's see how it all bakes out.
That's me.
This one is the last one. It's called the data driver. So right now you've got about 15% left. So this is the evidence-based decision maker. So this persona relies heavily on metrics, analytics, and concrete evidence to validate decisions, preferring proof over intuition. Before making important decisions about platform development, client strategy, or service expansion, I ask myself, what does our performance data actually tell us about conversion rate improvements, client ROI, and long-term project success across different e-commerce platforms and industry verticals? I want to see concrete analytics on everything from user experience metrics and A/B testing results to client retention and revenue growth that can validate our strategic instincts about where to invest resources for maximum impact.
I'm actually comfortable with my 15% left. Okay. I'll tell you why, because 9 times out of 10, my intuition is right and the data backs up my intuition. I'll expand on that a little bit more, but as a business owner, you should know your data already. I know every single project that's running at my company. I know our billable percentages, thresholds. Are we in the green? Are we in the black? Are we in the red at any given time on any given project? Now, yes, you have to have a view. You have to be able to view that information, but if I don't check that information in 2 weeks, I already know the answer before I need to go look at it. So I think it's a little bit of data is super important, but if you're working your company and you're in it day to day, that data is just validation. It's not, you already know the answer. And this is the same thing when it comes back to like the resiliency stuff. You already know if you need to make that hire. You already know if you need to make that firing. Hiring, Gary Vaynerchuk says it all the time, right? Hiring is guessing, firing is knowing. And I didn't steal it, it's his. So, but it's just, again, data is there. It's an important piece, but I think it's just validation. I think that you already, as a business owner, you know the answer.
The key is balance. You should know.
I'm a feeler. Like I just have the intuition, and then I go look and I'm like, oh, yeah, your gut was right.
There you go. 40% feeler, 25% planner, 20% counter, and 15% data driver. Thank you so much for doing that little exercise with me. Sure. So, with that said, right, as we kind of wrap up this conversation, my one final question for you is really about if you could give one piece of advice to an inspiring leader in the digital marketing and e-commerce space, what would it be?
Adapt or die.
Adapt. Let me make sure y'all got that. Adapt or die. Say more.
Technology is moving at a pace that we have never seen before with the adoption of AI. And I'm sure you all heard it, AI, right? I literally just came back from Shopify Dev Editions in Toronto a few weeks ago. They're launching a Copilot feature that a designer should be able to make an entire e-commerce website without ever needing a developer. So that's something that we have to evaluate. Now, you do need a developer. There's more complex situations. I'm saying that, in very layman terms. But it is super important for, intuition is important, data is important, but you need to be able to adapt to the 21st century. Social selling. Like, how many brands don't use social selling? How many brands that I know of, companies that I work with, that haven't even looked at AI as part of their process yet? I built an app for my kids in a weekend using Claude and OpenAI, and I don't code. I just want to ask the right questions. So I think it's twofold: adapt or die, which is ultimately pretty self-explanatory. But part of why I say adapt or die is you cannot be a linear thinker anymore in 2025 going forward. You have to be able to think creatively and know how to ask those questions. Because at the end of the day, asking questions and being able to prompt something is going to get you a better output than being able to just think with blinders on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Josh. And Josh, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. You have been an awesome.
How did I score? What was my score? What did I do? I get like an analysis?
You can go onto our site and get an analysis. This was really just, that was your analysis. 40% feeler.
I've done those tests before, and I can't remember. What am I, an STJI or something like that? But definitely more of an emotional feeler than
anything else.
Which is good and bad.
Yeah. Would you share with our listeners where they can learn more about you and Arctic Leaf?
Go to arcticleaf.com. Everything you need to know about the company, what we do, our portfolio, how long we've been in business is all there. And then really the best place to learn more about me is either going to LinkedIn, connect with me, and then stay tuned because I do have a few interesting things coming. JoshGarellek.com is in action, but it's going to be fleshed out a little bit more. And I got a new venture that I'm in the process of launching as well. So, and I'll give you a sneak peek. It's all around accountability.
Come on, accountability, leadership and accountability. They do go together. That's good stuff. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Remember, the best decisions come from great conversations. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do subscribe, rate it, share it with your network. Let's keep the conversation going on social media using Dynamic Decisions Podcast. And until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and keep leading with purpose.